Good day, everyone. I hope you're all doing well and ready to fire up your brain cells because today we're going to dive into one of the most powerful processes happening in your body right now. Today, we're going to talk about where most of that ATP comes from through a process called oxidative phosphorylation. I know that's a long word that sounds like it belongs in a science fiction movie, but I promise by the end of this session, you'll understand it and hopefully even appreciate how incredibly cool it is. So, whether you're a science lover or just here for the ride, let's explore how your cells act like mini power plants working 24/7 to keep you going. Let me ask you something. How are you even awake right now? You're sitting here, blinking, breathing, thinking. All of that takes energy. But where does that energy come from? Well, it all starts with food. Your body breaks food down into sugar and then it takes that sugar and turns it into a special molecule called ATP. That's your body's energy battery. Today, we're talking about oxidative phosphorylation, which again sounds like a science tongue twister, but it's actually the step where your cells make most of their ATP. You could call it the grand finale of how your cells power everything you do. Before we jump into oxidative phosphorylation, let's quickly rewind. We started with glycolysis that breaks down glucose into pyruvate, producing a tiny bit of ATP. Then comes the Krebs cycle, also known as the citric acid cycle. It takes that pyruvate and breaks it down further, creating molecules called NADH and FADH2. These two are like energy delivery trucks carrying high energy electrons. But here's the thing, glycolysis and the Krebs cycle only make a few ATP. The real energy jackpot happens in oxidative phosphorylation. This is where your body gets around 34 out of 38 ATP from a single glucose molecule. So what exactly is oxidative phosphorylation? It's the final stage of cellular respiration. It happens in the inner membrane of the mitochondria, the famous powerhouse of the cell. This process has two major parts, the electron transport chain or the ETC, and chemiosmosis, which is powered by a protein called ATP synthase. Together, they turn all the energy from earlier steps into a flood of ATP. Let's start with the electron transport chain. Where does this happen? In the inner membrane of the mitochondria. This membrane is folded into cristae to create more surface area, more space for ETC to occur. Imagine a row of people passing a hot potato. That potato is a high energy electron and it's passed from one protein to the next along the mitochondrial membrane. First step, electron carriers drop off electrons. From earlier steps, which are glycolysis and Krebs cycle, we have NADH and FADH2. These molecules carry high energy electrons and deliver them to the ETC, which is made of protein complexes embedded in the mitochondrial membrane. This one. Step 2. Electrons travel through protein complexes. These electrons move through a series of four main protein complexes. Complex 1, 2, 3, and 4. As electrons are passed from one complex to the next, they lose energy, but this energy is used for something important. Step 3. Pumping protons or H+. The ETC uses the energy from electrons to pump hydrogen ions or protons from the mitochondrial matrix to the intermembrane space. This creates a high concentration of H+ ions outside the inner membrane. As you can see, there are multiple H plus outside the inner membrane. And then step 4, we have oxygen, the final electron acceptor. At the end of the chain, electrons need somewhere to go. Oxygen accepts the electrons and combines with H plus ions to form water, or H2O. We can see it from here, the equation. We have oxygen, the final electron acceptor, and we now form water. That's why we need to breathe oxygen so the ETC can keep working. So when someone asks why you need to breathe, it's so your cells can finish this energy-making process. Now comes the second part, chemiosmosis. Now that the ETC has built up a proton gradient, or high H plus outside and low H plus inside, your cell is ready to cash in on that energy. Remember, all those protons we pumped across the membrane, they want to come rushing back, but they can't just flow anywhere. They have to pass through a special protein called the ATP synthase. ATP synthase is like a spinning water wheel. As protons flow through ATP synthase, they cause it to rotate. This spinning action powers the combination of ADP plus inorganic phosphate to form ATP. This is where your body gets most of its energy, like 34 ATP molecules from one glucose. Just from this little spinning machine, it's like a mini generator in every one of your cells. Let's go back to oxygen for a second. Without oxygen, at the end of the electron transport chain, the whole system backs up. Electrons can't move forward. Protons can get pumped. ATP synthase can spin, and suddenly you're in trouble. That's why when you hold your breath or run out of oxygen, your body can't make enough energy. Oxygen may be invisible, but it's absolutely essential for this process to work. So why is oxidative phosphorylation such a big deal? It's the most efficient way your body makes energy. Without it, you'd only make a couple of ATP per glucose. With it, you make almost 20 times more. It powers your muscles, your brain, your organs, literally everything. This process happens in every living cell that uses oxygen, from humans to animals to plants. It's a universal part of life on Earth. Let me give you a simple analogy to tie this all together. Think of a hydroelectric dam. Water builds up behind the dam, just like protons, on one side of the membrane. The water flows through a turbine, just like protons flow through ATP synthase. The turbine spins and generates electricity, just like ATP synthase spins and generates ATP. So in a way, you're like a living power plant. Your cells are generating energy 24/7 thanks to oxidative phosphorylation. Let's recap real quick. Glycolysis and the Krebs cycle get things started. Oxidative phosphorylation is the final stage where most energy is made. It involves the electron transport chain and chemiosmosis. It requires oxygen, and it makes a ton of ATP. Approximately 34 ATP come from oxidative phosphorylation alone, and 38 ATP in total, including those ATP formed from glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. So every breath you take, every bite of food you eat, all of it leads to this powerhouse process. And the big idea to remember, oxidative phosphorylation is your body's most efficient way to make energy. Without it, life as we know it wouldn't be possible. So next time you're breathing, walking, or even just sitting still, remember your mitochondria are hard at work, powering you up through oxidative phosphorylation. You're a walking, talking energy factory. Thanks for listening, and now go fuel up with sound glucose. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next module. Bye bye.